full of it. And I took it to her one day. It was colder than heck. She says, well, let's go to lunch. So we went to Pio's.
Good place.
Yeah. Went in the back, and all the good old boys are in the back room. She says, let's go up front. So we did. We sat there and ate. And we left there. My phone rang twice. One of them was Blackmeyer. He says, what's the deal? You and Jeanette didn't sit with the guys back there. You're up there by yourselves having a romantic lunch.
Blacksmith. Mike?
Mike, yeah. You know?
I've got a planning and zoning meeting where I am, when I leave here, I'm gonna go to Manchester, but it'll be at least an hour. Talk to you.
It's funny. It's a small town.
Yes. All right, my clock says it's 7 o'clock, so we're gonna call this meeting to order. May 2nd, 2024 meeting of the St. Charles County Board of Zoning Adjustments is hereby called to order. I want everybody to know we haven't had a meeting like this for 2 years, so if I stutter a little bit, you'll have to put up with me.
I gotta talk to that thing?
Oh. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the meeting of the St. Charles County Board of Adjustments. I'm the board's chairman, Jerry Prinster. The duties of the board include hearing appeals to vary the zoning requirements to provide relief where conditions of a property prevent development consistent with the intent or purposes of the applicable zoning regulations, and to render decisions on appeals from an action of the Director of Division of Planning and Zoning when it has been alleged that a permit has been incorrectly issued or denied. The board members here are citizen volunteers who are appointed by the county executive with county council approval. County staff members are also present. We have Jared and Robert and Brian. At this time, we ask that everybody mute their phones and any other device that'll interrupt us. During this meeting, each case will begin with a presentation by the applicant, which is typically limited to 5 minutes. County staff will then have an opportunity to provide relevant information for the board to consider. Any written communications from the public will be entered into the record. The board will then take public testimony relevant to whether or not granting of the requested variance would be appropriate. All persons planning to speak at tonight's meeting must first complete a speaker's card and hand it to our recording secretary, who tonight happens to be Jared. Blank cards are located over there behind Jared. Each speaker approaching the podium should submit their card, state their name, and be sworn in. Testimony is typically limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Once testimony has concluded, I will close the public hearing and no further input from the audience will be taken. A board member will move to approve the application so that discussion and a vote may take place. As required by county ordinance, at least 4 board members must vote in the affirmative. Sometimes we have 5, but it's obvious tonight we have only had 4. If the variance request is approved, the applicant may proceed after the proper permits have been issued. Any decision of the Board of Zoning Adjustment may be appealed to the county council within 14 working days after notification of the Board of Zoning Adjustments decision has been mailed. The Unified Development Ordinance and zoning maps of St. Charles County are hereby entered into the record. Please read at the start of the meeting, I hereby open this public hearing. Secretary, would you be kind enough to read our case number 1?
Variance request for 4010 Old Salt River Road. Property owner Aaron and Nathan Farabee, applicant Aaron Farabee. The variance requested is the request from section 405-80D3 of the ordinances of St. Charles County to allow for a 12-foot side yard setback instead of 40 feet. The property is zoned A agricultural district with floodway fringe overlay district. The parcel size is 1.94 acres. And it's in County Council District Number 1.
Is the property owner, applicant, or a representative here to speak on this appeal? Have you filled out one of the speaker's cards? I have. Would you please? Anybody else that wishes to speak tonight, would they please fill out those cards? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
My name is Nathaniel Clark Fairby. Address is 4010 Old Salt River Road, Wentzville, Missouri.
Okay, thank you.
And-
Please proceed.
What I'm asking for is the variance for the side yard setbacks, trying to get those changed to 12 feet instead of the 40 feet that's currently in place. What we're trying to accomplish is we're wanting to add an addition to the home, but the setback as it stands is, the house is halfway into the setback. So it's preventing us from adding any form of addition to the house.
Okay, does staff have anything to say, Robert?
Yes. Do you have anything else to,
No, not really.
okay, I'd be happy to present some information. If I could step up to the
Please.
Elmo, because this may help in what I'm about to say. Okay. Be relevant to, make sure this is right. Okay. There we go.
So like right now, the house is close to the south side of that property line, which is the side yard. And the addition would be added parallel to that line, but it wouldn't be getting any much closer, if at all, to that property. So right now, we just can't really do anything because that setback's is in the way. We would be building all the way into the setback, which is already in the house.
Robert, proceed.
Okay. Quickly, some of the facts in this case is there's an existing house is built in 1960 on this parcel. Parcel zone agricultural. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure it's on. The parcel is zoned A agricultural district. So today, the minimum side yard setback is 40 feet. But when the house was built in 1960, it was much less than that. It was 20 feet. And so the house was built according to the zoning at that time in 1960, but since that time, the side yard setback has changed in the zoning regulations so that it's a much greater side yard setback. The house is located, if you look at this drawing, roughly here. It's not exact, obviously, but what I'm trying to illustrate is it's what I would call the pole of the flagpole. This is a flag-shaped lot, and it's built in the skinny part of the lot. And yes, it's 130 feet at an angle along the roadway, but measured from across this way, that part of the lot is only 100 feet wide. So you take a 40-foot side yard setback and a 40-foot side yard setback, your buildable area in that part of the lot is only 20 feet wide. And there's what I would call the building envelope. The rear part of the lot is in the flood zone. The rear part of the lot is in the floodway fringe. So yes, someone could say, well, you should build in the rear part of the lot, but do we really want to push a home into the floodway fringe? And these are some of the factors I wanted to explain before I make a short presentation on the criteria. But I thought maybe seeing this overhead might help you, or help understand this case.
So Robert, my question would be, is that then, it looks like where this driveway is, it would be in that section?
It would be on the opposite side.
Be on the opposite
Yeah.
side, okay.
Okay, so we have a photograph here of the house. So
Yeah.
would it be, as we look, considering this being south, you're gonna do the addition to the south?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay,
Towards the pond.
Right, towards that pond there.
Yeah. Yeah, towards the south, the nearest home is about 500 feet away. It's on the other side of the pond. So in this situation, it's not like there's a house 7 feet from the property line or something like that. I mean, there's a good distance for that. As you may recall, as Brian reminded me that we haven't met since 2022, I think it is. So it's easy for me to get rusty on some of these details. But as you may recall, the criteria that are in the zoning code for granting variances, according to the ordinance, it's got to meet all of those variance criteria. And what I would suggest is, just thinking about each criteria one by one. The county staff report, the written staff report, has a more detailed analysis. But just briefly, I would like to characterize the criteria as the variance requested is due to unique circumstances inherent to the specific piece of property and not to personal considerations of the property owner. And for the reasons that are cited in the staff report, written staff report, and what I just mentioned, in my estimation, it does comply with that criteria. Second, the variance is not needed as a result of an affirmative act of the property owner that could have been avoided through a different course of action. 3, the variance would not merely grant a special benefit to the property beyond what is enjoyed by other properties regulated by the same set of zoning regulations. The way I kind of characterize that is, years ago, we'd sometimes have variance requests. Someone said, I want a variance for the maximum size of the garage because I have a lot of stuff. I have boats and trailers and all this sort of thing, so I want a variance to have a larger garage than everyone else on the block. To me, that sort of situation is granting a special benefit that other property owners can't enjoy. But in this case, it seems like that he's just trying to do what other property owners already can do, which is build a building in addition. And that's the way I think of it. 4, applying the regulation would result in practical difficulties to the property owner, and also whether granting such a variance would not create a substantial detriment to the public good and would not substantially impair the intent, purpose, and integrity of the zoning regulations. For the reasons cited in the staff report, county staff believes that all 4 variance criteria could be supported, but obviously that's up to you and that's your decision. We offer what's in the written staff report as just guidance for your discussion and your thinking. County staff does recommend approval of the variance with 3 conditions, and the conditions that we're suggesting really are to help limit the variance to the one side yard and to what I would call the narrow portion of the lot, and rather than having, all the way around all property lines, for instance.
So just the home.
Let's see, the suggested conditions would be the side yard variance would be limited to primary structures as existing currently and in the future. So if this would be approved in that way, in my thinking, if this house were torn down, someone else could build another house in that same area and have a side yard setback variance that they could take advantage of for the house itself. 2, the variance shall be limited to the southernmost property line, and 3, the variance would be like the first 300 feet of the southern property line, back from the front. In other words, there's not really grounds to have a variance in the back portion where there's lots of land. You can much more easily support a variance for the skinny portion of the lot. Again, those are just some thoughts that you're welcome to think about or disregard to your.
That's why we like to have you here. Any board member want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Purser, I'm sorry, we have to leave it for public comment for anyone else who might want to have a
Oh.
public comment on there. Just want to make sure we do that.
Is there anyone else? Are you finished with your comments, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak for or against this variance? Okay, am I all right now, Brian? Okay. David,
I'll make a motion to approve the variance request with the 3 staff recommendations.
I'll second that.
any other discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. Get to work. Thank you. All right, next. Jared, you want to read the next one?
This is another variance request for 3033 Timberwood Drive. Property owner Marquette Group LLC, applicant Greg Treifenbach. The variance requested is to vary from 405, 415E of the ordinances of St. Charles County to reduce the minimum front yard setback indicated on the recorded subdivision plat from 25 feet to 18 feet, and to vary from section 405, 495D2 of the ordinances of St. Charles County to reduce the minimum front yard setback in the R1E zoning district from 20 feet to 18 feet. The property is zone R1E, single-family residential. Parcel size is .22 acres and is located in County Council District Number 7.
Thank you. Is there a representative here to speak on behalf of this request?
Yes,
Okay, have you signed a speaker card?
I did.
Thank you.
Do you want my card?
No, you give that to our acting secretary.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
My name is Greg Treifenbach. My address is 14844 Rawls Drive, Troy, Missouri, 63379.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I'm coming, obviously I've drawn a crowd. It wasn't by intent that I did this. I was just trying to build a house according to the rules of St. Charles County. I think the biggest issue that happened in going through with this house was that we measured our 25 feet from the road, and there was an additional 7-foot setback from that road. Now, I would say also, in general, I would say, looking at what's going on from one house to the other, I would be able to say, okay, well, we're maybe a little close, but I knew that we were at our 25 from the road. But, so I'll go forward from it. So basically, we started building. Before I started building, we did our piers and our footings, and I've had an inspection go through from there, and that was passed, which is generally when those setbacks are all measured. I also did they came back out for the foundation. When the foundation wall came in, it was partial on the first time because they wanted more steel in it. It had nothing to do with setbacks once again. So we added the extra steel, or they made the foundation company do that, and then that passed. So then we went ahead and started framing this house. It's currently framed and roofed. we were in the process of getting the windows in when I got a stop work order, because we got, and they said now we're not, we're at, I think 18 feet is what we were set at. So, in my case, I'm not here to, in truth, I want my house to mix in with the rest of the neighborhood. I mean, this is an old neighborhood. It's been there for, I believe, 50-something years is when it was started built. It doesn't do me any good to make any changes from the way the whole thing looks. I will say that my neighbor to the left that we're building on, we're only a foot ahead of his his footings. And it's on his front porch, but that is the footprint for these, the way a house is printed on your Public Works map. I have these, I brought stuff. I don't know if,
Okay.
this is kind of example, my house isn't on this, but just to show how what the footprints look like on the county map, they include everything. Anything that's got a footing or a pier. So I have that. I brought copies, but obviously I don't need it. These are I'll go through these. This is my footing and pier that was passed. This is from on the website. They have a portal that we go through, and this is how we communicate. So they passed my footing and my pier at this point. And then I came back, and then they passed my foundation, which you can see there. So every time I get a pass, I'm given the green light to go forward with the next step. Now that we're at this point where the house is framed and built, and roofed, it's a lot more significant financially to try to make any kind of changes, 7-foot changes at that point. The costs, because just so that you know, I have that too. So if I were to get rid of the garage totally, and not have a garage and some sort of lean-to or something, it would affect my ability to sell at almost $100,000 roughly. I don't want to go through, I have all these, I brought them because I thought I should bring everything, but I have all the comps of homes that don't have garages, and it's significantly less with those sales. Now, granted, these are older homes, so we're selling a home because it's brand new, so it's a lot more than that. But my realtor is stating to me that we're between 90 and 100,000 difference in our sales price. I also got bids on, here we are. We got bids on all the work it would take to take it out, move it back, redesign it, and put it back up. And that price is this is all that's entailed in there. So I got the demo, then the foundation demo, then the framing, came back to reframing it, and then, so I'm basically at a price point of $96,700 to take it down and rebuild it. Okay, so my issues are here, and I'm not really, and then the final part is I showed you that blueprint because, when I look to my footings, to my neighbor's footings, I am within a foot of the footings on the front of his house. So we're kind of right in there with everyone else and what's going on. I know it's not what they originally wanted, but I put a laser on it. I promise you I put a laser on that measurement. Huh?
We'll let him have his time.
You'll have your time if you want to speak.
Right, so my point is I actually did measure those, and the truth is there's actually about 3 or 4 other homes that are definitely within that 25 feet. On the other side behind me, there's one that's actually further in than I am. So my issues here are that I am not trying to cause any ruckus amongst the neighborhood. I don't think that we're really pushing the house out much further than, what I'm having, with the house right next to me even. But, as far as financially, it's exorbitant. As far as, I'm not a big company. I'm a small company that's just, working through this. And my biggest thing behind this was, I really was just trying to follow instruction from the city through my permitting, and I thought we were doing it right. So that's kind of all I have to say.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Do I need to say, you want me to?
Jim?
Your original plans, what did they show the setback at from the street, it's hard to see with what I have. We have a clear picture that shows,
There should be an image in the packet, and that shows, an architect drew a plot plan showing that it would be 25 feet. He showed on the plot plan a 25 feet building line and showed the building conforming to that. And then
but did that show that from the street, or did it show it with the setback and then the 25?
from the front property line, he showed it from the front property line,
Okay, 'cause
25 feet back.
What I have in here, my eyes are good, but not. that
Sir,
good.
Yes, sir.
when you bought this, did you have it surveyed?
I did.
Do they have, all four corners of your property marked?
Yes.
Okay. Are those marks 7.5 feet from the street?
The marks,
Those pins?
I don't know, I didn't measure that, but the marks was actually knocked down excavation, but they are there. And I know that I'm 7 feet off. Now that I looked at that, I know that that's where the measurement should have gone from. Like, I am aware that I didn't do it from that marking. And then I think, I gave you the worst-case scenario with this. Moving at 7 feet, we can manage 2 feet better than we could 7. If it were 20 instead of 25. I know that, I told them that.
I'm assuming you built houses before
I have,
in St. Charles County or Lincoln County?
I have.
And I suppose this is a spec house?
It is,
It's not something you're gonna live in? Okay.
no.
Did you have to get an okay through the subdivision also to build?
I did not. This is turned over to the county, this subdivision.
Any other questions for this gentleman? Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Bauer, you had asked about the plot plan, and if you're looking at a paper copy printed out, it may or may not have printed out correctly. Mine did not print out correctly, but if you look on the digital packet that was distributed, that's online, that's on the agenda, it's page 13 of 13. If you click on the blue link, it's that very last page in the digital packet in the top right-hand corner.
How you fades down on this thing?
I'll help you.
Usually arrows work.
It's also this, right?
Yeah, it's hard to see on the, no, it's the,
If you go to the,
I have, this one you can't see.
yeah, right there.
Yeah, but it's hard to see I'm trying to figure out what it says.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta hit that, duh, okay. I did that at home and printed it out myself, that's why I have it,
See, he knows how to do that.
yeah.
What it shows is the property lines, it says lot 60, it shows the building, the outline of the building, and then it shows the front of the garage as 25 feet BLD-LN, meaning 25-foot building line.
So it clearly shows the tool.
Any more questions for Robert?
When they come out and do the footings and pier
Yeah.
approvals, do they measure to make sure they're right, or just looking to say, hey, the footings look good and concrete's fine, or?
It was approved for building code compliance. It was not reviewed for the building setback. I would say that for clarification, it appears that the main part of the house meets that 25-foot setback for the building line, but the garage, which extends out further, does not. So we're really just talking about the garage portion of the building.
Do they normally check that?
They do not, and the reason is because the property lines typically are not marked. It's really the responsibility of the builder and the property owner to stake out the property to ensure that it meets the setback requirements. I would say, here's an example. So if you're going out there and you're an inspector and you're looking at a trench that's 10 feet deep and you're looking at the piers in the bottom of that trench, it's visually difficult to judge whether or not something 10 feet down on the ground, meets the setback requirement. So that's one of the reasons that we really rely upon the builders and their surveyors in order to ensure that it meets that setback requirement. In this case, I wish it would have been flagged earlier that it didn't meet the setback requirement, but here we are.
Is there anyone else go ahead, sir.
The only thing I wanted to clarify is the front garage actually has a footing as well, and that isn't 10 feet, that's only dug at like 3 feet. Not that, I'm just saying that it's not all 10 feet, and the part that we're discussing was not dug 10 feet at that footing spot.
Okay. If you're willing, I could make a short presentation like I did for the last time,
I'd
Yes,
like you to
please.
do that if you would.
if you're okay with that. Put my glasses here. Just briefly, as has been stated before, I would characterize this as an infill project for an existing neighborhood. And so we already have a whole series of lots and homes that have been built decades ago. And this lot had been vacant. It's under construction now, but I don't find record of any home ever being built on this property. So just to be clear, the county's setback requirement, there's two components of it. For the R1E single-family residential zoning district in which this is located, the minimum required setback, front yard setback, is the building line as shown on the recorded subdivision plat, or a minimum of 20 feet from the front property line, whichever is greater. And so the reason there's actually two different variance requests as part of this application is that because the applicant is seeking an 18-foot setback, if you granted one but not the other, it wouldn't help. I mean, it would help to, even if the building line, if you did away with the building line, you still have the 20-foot required setbacks, so they'd be over that line 2 feet. So in order to meet his objective to leave the building where it is, there's really two different variances. And I would just ask that you consider each one of those separately and vote on those separately. That's our advice. Willowwood Estates subdivision is what that plat that's recorded. That's what imposes the 25-foot building line. And again, the R1E zoning district imposes a minimum of 20-foot front yard setback, and that's measured not from the street or the curb, but it's actually measured from the front property line. Typically, a street is built within the right-of-way and centered within the right-of-way typically, and so there's normally I'll call it a grass strip on each side of the street that's actually part of the right-of-way and is part of the county property, for instance. And then beyond that, you have the front property line. The criteria that I mentioned before, let me go over one other thing. As best as I can tell, there's 5 different options here. These were offered to the applicant, and so he's chosen this option number 5, which is a request for zoning variance. The first option would be to replat Lot 60 of the subdivision and reduce the building line from 25 feet to 20 feet. But that's only going to help to a certain extent. That would still mean that the garage portion is 2 feet over that line. So that's only a partial solution. Also, remove the roof and walls of the garage and use the garage floor as an open-air parking pad. One of the practical difficulties with that is that, as you can imagine, the roof trusses, I'm sure that the roof trusses are all integrated between the house and the garage, and there's not an easy way to do that without impairing the integrity of the roof trusses. You know, you really have to redesign all of that. Now, option 3, remove that portion of the garage which is located in front of the 25-foot building line. That has some of the same problems as number 2. Number 4, move the garage back in compliance with the 25-foot building line. So that's also an option, but as you've probably seen from the floor plan, that would push the garage back into a living area, and there's a stairwell right behind it. So there's, that has complications as well. And then the 5th option that we could see was request a zoning variance with the Board of Zoning Adjustment. The criteria that mentioned previously are the same for each case. 1, the variance is requested due to unique circumstances inherent to the specific piece of property and not to personal considerations of the property owner. I've really tried to look for anything that's different about this property than any other lot on the street, but I really cannot find anything that's really different between this lot and the other lots. What I mean by that is, what's interesting about this block, almost every single lot is exactly the same. It has the same size, the same depth, the same width, and all the characteristics of the lots themselves are really the same, except for maybe one lot on the corner. So, and all of the other homes, to the best of our knowledge, were built in compliance with the setbacks. So I don't really see anything inherent with the land itself. Now, the lot does drop off in the back. Sometimes people will want to build forward when the lots drop off in the back. But on the other hand, sometimes that's a benefit because someone likes a walkout, a finished walkout basement. So it's not necessarily deterrent. Again, other homes on the block also have the grade change in the back, and they seem to be in compliance. That's variance criteria number 1. Number 2, the variance is not intended as a result of an affirmative act of the property owner that could have been avoided through a different course of action. I do think that it could have been avoided with a different course of action. Number 3, the variance would not merely grant a special benefit to the property beyond what is enjoyed by other property owners regulated by the same set of zoning regulations. The last case, the example that I gave was someone wanted a garage larger than everyone else because they have more stuff. In that case, this one particular property gets to enjoy something that others can't. I guess in one way you could see, this as, because if the variance were granted, this house could stick out farther than others, and others could say, well, why can't I build an addition that goes out in front of my house closer to the street, but you can, but I can't, that sort of thing. 4, applying the regulation would result in practical difficulties to the property owner. In determining whether practical difficulties exist, relevant factors to consider include whether or to what degree the owner can pursue the permitted use without a variance, the financial hardship to the property owner from the strict application of the regulation, how substantial the variance request is in relation to the regulation, whether the difficulty can be obviated by some method other than a variance, and whether such relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent, purpose, and integrity of the zoning regulations. I would say, in my thinking, there's certainly practical difficulties to the property owner and a financial hardship, certainly, from what I'm seeing. Now, whether or not it can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent of the ordinance, I have questions about that, because if one person, in other words, doesn't have to follow that regulation, but everyone else does on the block, does that undermine the integrity of the zoning code? I hate to backtrack, but I just thought of something else. In the first variance, the variance is requested due to unique circumstances inherent to the specific piece of property and not to personal considerations of the property owner. I think, based on what I'm hearing from the applicant, it sounds like to me, in the applicant's viewpoint, there is something specific to that piece of property, and that is that there's an existing dwelling under construction with foundation walls, roof and walls, and that this is unique circumstance inherent to this parcel. If this were, I think it sounds like from what the property owner is saying is that, yes, if this were a vacant piece of ground, then it would be different than because there's an existing building that's partly under construction that's so far along. So I think, trying to be generous, I think that's probably a practical difficult, or something inherent to the specific property that the property owner sees. Because in county staff's view, it does not meet all four of the criteria, we would recommend for denial for each of these, for both the building line setback and for the minimum 20-foot zoning setback. But I would say that if you should choose to approve a variance or variances, there's some draft conditions for your consideration on the final page of the staff report.
Thank you. Any questions for Bob, or for Robert, from you guys?
No room to do anything on the right side. If you're looking at the house, no room to do anything on the right side of the house. Move the garage over there.
No,
Too far.
yeah, the side yard setbacks
Okay.
are not enough to allow like to move the garage elsewhere.
You used one example we started. A guy wanted a bigger garage because he's got boats and things.
Yeah.
Is this garage similar to the size of other garages in the neighborhood?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's a typical garage that is being proposed, I would say. I think it's a two-car garage. And it's deep enough basically for one car. So it's not like a super deep garage based on the floor plan.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak for or against this? Yes, ma'am? Have you given Jared your card? Thank you. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You do. Please state your name and address.
I'm Suzanne Busher. I live at 402 Timberwood Court.
Okay?
He's right. The neighborhood is an old neighborhood. I had my house built in 1975. Because of where this house is being built, the road that goes up and through there is very narrow. If you have someone parking on this one side of the street, you can only have room for a car coming the other direction. This is it's an older neighborhood, but it's being flipped over to a lot of young children and things are coming in, and people are walking dogs, children are playing in the neighborhood, they're riding their bikes, and his driveway, basically up to his garage, can barely get one car into that area. So he's going to be hanging off. So if you look at it and and the people are putting their cars on the street, it's going to make it really difficult. I'm sorry this is going to cause this gentleman financial strain, but I've never seen a house go up this fast. I mean, it was like lickety-split. We were all laughing about how quickly this went up. And as it was going up, we were all looking at each other going, that's not where it belongs. I mean, most of us have been in this neighborhood the same amount of time, and we could see that it wasn't right. And we couldn't figure out why nothing was being done. And now that it is built, basically, he's wanting to make an exception. And I don't think anyone in the neighborhood is really happy about it. It does cause a deterrent for our neighborhood because it does look different. But it also causes a hazard for the kids playing in the neighborhood, driving their bikes, walking their dogs, doing everything, because it is really short on that driveway. And so they're gonna be parking out on the street. I mean, even the mailman coming up is going to have problems getting around everybody. Everybody tries to stay in their driveway and stays off the street as much as possible because it is a very narrow street. The main road coming into the neighborhood, because this is the oldest section of this subdivision, it's wider. It's big enough to have people parked on both sides of the street and 2 lanes of cars going through. This road is not. This is a road that comes up and around and comes off on a court, and it's really kind of limited to the width. And I just don't see, because he has a problem, that we should cause an issue to allow him to do this and then have to work around it. I mean, literally, if you're coming down the street and there's cars parked here, you have to stop because nobody can get through the other way. So, I mean, I'm sorry it's causing him a problem, but I think the neighborhood in general does not want this. And I don't think his garage is as big, no offense meant, as everybody else's. Because his garage looks like, I don't know how you're gonna get 2 cars into that garage, side by side. I just can't see that. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. But having it that close to the street, I think that's gonna be a real problem.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to make a comment that hasn't already been made? Please. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Sandra Stelzer, 3034 Timberwood Drive, St. Charles. I've
Thank you.
typed up like 7 bullet points of my thoughts about this whole topic. I've lived at 3034 since 1982. These are my thoughts and opinions, and some of the things I'll be mentioning were based on information whenever I did some searches on the internet. And before I actually go to my 7 bullet points and my conclusion, I just want to say regarding the issue that we've just been currently talking about, the garage, a suggestion that since the back of the house is all open, it's not underground because of the hill, that they could put the garage in the basement and have the driveway come around. That's my suggestion for that. But here's my bullet points. The new build is not an asset to our property values. It is odd, being out of place both literally and figuratively, disrupting our mid-century style subdivision with all the other homes following the setback requirements. Mr. Triefenbach's hardship statement states, quote, will inevitably bankrupt my company, unquote. Which company is he speaking of? He is listed as the registered agent for both Nautilus Construction LLC and Marquette Group LLC. Nautilus is the applicant of the variance request, and Marquette is the property owner. It appears that the board's purpose is to enforce and regulate county ordinances. In layman's terms, to me, that means to protect the county. Who is the county? It's the citizens and taxpayers. Mr. Triefenbach and his companies are not residents of St. Charles County. And his intention, to me, appears to solely be to make a profit. Neighbors repeatedly told him early on that the house was too close to the road and not in alignment with existing homes, causing a disruption in the harmony intended, and he was dismissive in response. The backyard is quite large in comparison to the front yard. Plenty of space on the .22 acre lot, but the choice of placement of the structure is the problem. Regarding congestion, the driveway, the garage footing to the curb is 25 feet. I measured my pickup truck, and it's 20 feet without the trailer hitch. If I would park it there, it's obviously not going to be touching the footing. So many of our Timberwood driveways accommodate 4 vehicles. Short driveways will likely cause additional street parking, which is cumbersome for school buses, trash trucks, cause obstruction of vision, difficulty for myself to back out of my driveway, especially with a crest of there's a slight hill on our road. dangerous for children riding bicycles, etc. Timberwood is not a wide thoroughfare like Willowwood, which is the main entrance to the subdivision. One example of the road not being wide enough is we had a problem during the construction in December when the boom truck for the foundation work of 3033 hit and damaged my mailbox. We brought this to Mr. Triefenbach's attention, and he said he would provide compensation, and he still has not done that. Will a variance set a precedent for others who want to add to the front of their home? Why should an outsider be allowed an exception to the rules, but the resident taxpayers are not? When this is over, Mr. Triefenbach will be gone from Timberwood, but the people who live here will have to live with any concerning consequences for the remaining years. Neighbors on 3 sides have resided in their homes for over 40 years. We would like the continuity of our neighborhood to stay intact. And my concluding statement is, since the ordinances were in place since 1972, and with the builder being approached multiple times by concerned neighbors regarding the non-alignment early on in the project, as well as the above-mentioned bullet points, it is my hope that the board will uphold the 52-year-old ordinances for their original intention, and in doing so, protect their taxpayers and citizens from an outside company coming in trying to make exceptions in the name of financial profit. May your decision represent what is the better option for the St. Charles County residents and taxpayers affected. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think it's pretty well been covered. You got a couple? Yes. Does Jared have your card?
Yes, he does.
All right, thank you. Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Robert Harden, 3037 Timberwood.
Okay?
And I just got a couple of issues. One is, I still haven't understood where this barrier, the building line is supposed to be for this house to be measured from. There's a flag that says corner building area where you're supposed to start from. That's 12 foot from the road. So you go by that, he's only 13 foot back to the footing on the garage.
Okay.
And I don't think anyone's really mentioned the fact that looks like a 12-foot variance from the street to where the building lot or your line is, which I think needs to be figured, somebody needs to get that figured out. The other problem is, we told him several times, not just me, but several other people, that he was building too close to the road. And he just kind of ignored it, didn't pay no attention to what we had to say, and kept on going. As the building went on, there were several times, and, on his behalf, basically, is the county came by and took looking at the building and stuff like that. And I went out there and talked to the people and said, this house is not, I don't think it's right. And they looked at it and said, oh, no, you're right. It looks like it's way too close to the road. And, considering where all the other houses' property line goes, it was really obvious he was about 12 foot farther out than what he's supposed to be. And that's one of the biggest issues I got. It seems like no one seems to understand where where this property line is. And I think it has a lot to do with what you gotta get that figured out before you can go anywhere else. But I walk out of my porch and look to the left and all I see is a wall, 12-foot wall.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Gentleman over here with the cane.
Yeah, my name's Denver Sullivans. I live at 412 Willowwood Court.
Does he have your card?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
And your name again, please?
Denver Sullins.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
live at 412 Willowwood Court, right up there. I take that road sometimes when I leave my house. It goes downhill and around a curve. So when that house is sticking out there and going down there, you can't see part of the road. It blocks some of it. His poor neighbor can't see what's going on down there because his house is blocking the neighbor's. I'm sorry he messed up. I've done electricity, high voltage, low voltage, everything for 40 years. I can't walk into my house and start doing my panel unless I go down and get a permit and everything I'm supposed to do and do it right, they still come and inspect it. They're not gonna let me do it. Also, I'd like to get a pad on the side of my house. I got a ticket for parking my trailer on the side of my house, because it didn't have anything. I can't get a variance to do that. They won't let me because there's not enough room. That's the way everything's set up. So why should somebody get a variance for a big old house if I can't even get one for a small trailer so I can have an ATV that I use to get out in the woods? Obviously, I'm disabled. I don't see why you should just be given that. It's not right.
Okay, thank you.
And,
Did you get a turkey?
excuse me?
Did you get a turkey?
No, I don't hunt no more. I just go out and take pictures.
I didn't get one either, by the way. Anybody else wish to speak for or against this? Any questions from the panel? Oh, I'm sorry.
My name's John Sylvie. I live at 3029 Timberwood Drive.
John, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes,
Thank you.
okay. I understand your plight, Craig, I really do. I live exactly next to him, to the right of the house. In my house, I have a family room. It sits right in the middle of the house. I look across the sun deck I'm building. I see the back of my garage, but I can hardly see the basement. It sits up past towards the front of the yard. They're talking about the driveways. Virtually every home of the 150 some odd homes in the, I've lived there 50 years. I'm 84 years old. I've seen that thing, every house built in that neighborhood. Virtually every home has a 4-car driveway. I have a 6-car driveway, and several of them have 6-car driveways. Basically, when they first started building that, was to keep cars off the street, because most families nowadays have more than one car in the garage, that type of thing, and they got a place to park it. So if you measure that driveway, it's 22 feet, his driveway. If you measure my driveway, it's 40 feet to get up to my garage. So if you look down the building line, it's beautiful from the other side of the house, but on my side and everybody else's side, you can't, it just sets so far out. They were talking about the prospect of doing the various trying to fix this thing and so forth. I understood the other day, I could be wrong on this, but there's a company for about, I don't know, like they told me $70,000 or $80,000 that has a crane system that can actually go in and pick up a house with the foundations and move it back totally. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm still trying to find out. The contractor that told me that was going to look it up too. Also, we were only allowed 4 days. We got the letters 4 days ago. There's no signs up there for this meeting in the neighborhood. Nobody knew about it. We had to kind of get on the emails and tell everybody type of thing. So I don't know why that was, but.
Looks like you did a good job, though.
Well, I think we could have gotten more up here. As far as the financial thing, I understand you have quite a few LLCs throughout the area, and I suspect you have houses under each one for like a carpet bale, that type of thing. That's
John,
strictly.
that doesn't add anything to our,
Okay, but
discussion.
he was, you know, this financial thing and all that, I understand that. Let's see, what else did I have? The backyard that he has is 5,000 square feet. The front yard he has is 1,300 square feet. It's a little bitty thing. About 2 months ago, there was a car out there from the county sitting there. I thought, what is this? I walked out. It's the tax assessor going out and measuring the house for tax purposes. And I'm standing there talking with him and everything. He says, do you know anything odd about this house? And I says, I just kind of played dumb. I says, no, what do you mean? He says, it looks screwy. And I'm quoting this man. He says, there's not something right here. Do you notice that? And I says, yeah, sort of. He just kind of walked off, and I didn't elaborate on it or anything like that. as far as an extension or anything like that, there was a group down the street already have been talking about and even asked me if I would chip in for an attorney. But that was before this meeting and everything else. There is a house, if I can put this over here. How do I turn this?
You got it.
Oh, there.
There you go.
If you notice, let's see if I can get this. The bottom picture is the garage, right here. If you go over here, look how far that house goes back. This is that gentleman's house right there. It's about 20 feet back. So he comes out to look down the street around the corner. He's got to walk out. So he's got to walk out to the middle of his yard to see down his street, you know. But if you look the other way and you look down through there, and every house is just perfectly in line. So I just wanted to, this is your pictures, by the way. I was going to get a professional photographer out there, but we didn't have time to do that. So if it goes his direction, then we'll probably go ahead and appeal it and everything. So it's up to you, gentlemen, to protect us, because that's
All right,
that's
thank
what
you.
you're here for.
Appreciate your input.
Okay, thank you.
And appreciate everybody coming out. I have another lady came up and got a card, I think. Does Jared have your card? Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name.
Regina Smith, and I live at 3045 Timberwood Drive.
Must be Paul's wife.
Yes, I am.
Go ahead.
I just want to point out, being a contractor, most every single contractor that I know of carries a error and omissions insurance policy. Just want to make sure that's known.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will now close the open session. And Robert, do you have anything else to add from the staff?
I don't unless you have any questions for me.
I got one question for you. I think you
Yeah.
answered this, but I want to make sure. You said there's never been a house on this lot before.
As far as I know, I looked for building permit records and I couldn't find one.
There's never been, okay,
I was the owner. I sold the property to this gentleman.
okay.
Okay.
So there's never been anything on there before.
So you caused all this problem? Just teasing, yeah. No. All right, any other questions from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Got to do two of these, right? So we'll
Yeah.
do the first one.
Please. Thank you.
The section 405, 415E, the building line setback, motion to approve with the two county considerations.
Recommendations? Okay.
You want me to read them, or is that okay, because they're in the,
You just say with, yeah, like how you've done it is just fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so. Do you have a second?
Do I hear a second?
we got to vote to say yes before we can vote. We can't make a motion to say no.
Second to,
That's
yeah,
just the
just to
rule.
have the vote,
That's
not
just
to
the- that's
approve,
just
not
the
to approve
rules.
it. Yeah, not
Okay.
to approve it, yeah.
Okay, then I'll second.
And Jared will take a roll call vote on that, if that's okay, gentlemen?
Sure.
Mr. Bauer?
No.
No,
Mr. Matlick?
no,
Mr. Prisner?
No.
Mr. Bosher?
No.
And we'll make a second motion for the second one for section 405, 90D2, the 20-foot setback with the, also the two county staff recommendations.
okay, I'll second that.
Mr. Bauer?
No.
Mr. Matlick?
No,
Mr. Pritzner?
No.
Mr. Bosher?
No.
All right, so obviously, this variance has been declined. Greg, your alternative at this point is you get 14 days to appeal this to the county council. And if they don't approve you, then you can take it, I think, to the circuit court, Brian, after the county.
There's a potential, yeah, there's
Yeah.
enough potentially.
You have 14 days from when we issue our decision to go to the county council and ask for them to move in your favor. Okay? Okay, I think that's it, guys. We've got some little inner things to do here, but not that the crowd needs to stay far. Yes, sir. All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
What time is the bar open?
I'm an hour late already. Not yet, I don't think. We won't do that until we see you again, all right. Maybe I ought to look at this and see. Secretary?
Shame of this thing is that the county didn't measure
Yep.
with all these people bringing it up.
We'll close the public hearing on this app, which I did.
Oh, just motion to approve the minutes from September 1st of '22. Wow.
Yes.
That was a long time ago.
Yes.
What was that meeting?
I had to go back and
You
look.
can still second it if you want.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Do we got anything else we need to do?
We need to adjourn this meeting, I believe.
The one thing I do want to mention, because if he does take it to council, and then there is going to be some appeal down the road, we may need, even if we don't have any applications, we may need to call a very quick, it could even be a virtual meeting, to just approve the minutes so we have the record for.
That's fine.
Court. It's going to be kind of it would be a real quick login, call to order, vote. So just want to give a heads up, that may come down.
You say if the county council approves it?
If it rejects it and then it's appealed to a court, it might.
Oh,
Yeah, if it
okay.
goes to court, then they're
So,
going to
yeah.
see. all
Have
the-
they ever overridden us, Robert? Has the county?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Have they? Okay, I
Yeah,
didn't-
sometimes the denial is upheld and sometimes it's overturned.
Did they approve the water tower one?
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I know they overrode us on. We denied them where they wanted to put that big ass water tower.
I think they might have denied it, but then it was overturned in court. I think that's what happened. Yeah, I think it was, because the water company was ruled to be, I think it was like a governmental agency.
A quasi-governmental agency.
Yeah,
so-
and I think it went to court and it was overruled there. So that's my recollection. But get back to your point, Brian, is it possible to hold a meeting remotely in order to
BZA?
approve minutes for the BZA?
If we don't have, I'll take a look to make sure. I'm just trying to think it'd be as convenient as possible, but I think we
Yeah.
can. I think
As long as we
post it,
advertise.
And as long as everyone has access
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as long as it's posted and there's a way for the other people to come online with us.
We should be all right.
We-
if we were
We've
to
done
have
that with
a-
BOE.
Yeah, if we were to have an application here, I wouldn't want to do it remotely because we need the people here, to give their testimony and everything like that. But in terms of
If it's just minutes or
for
something.
that,
Yeah.
I think we might be able to do it. I'll check to make sure, to make
I know
absolutely
this
sure.
is,
Yeah.
we can't change a lot of policies, but is there some way to where down the road, we would require, for instance, a copy of a foundation survey before they proceed with?
We've talked about quite at length about those ideas. And there's an upside and a downside to doing so. Here in St. Charles County, where you have large lots, if someone has 20 acres, doing the boundary survey for the foundation is a little bit of a burden because you have to get the surveyor out there, you have to pay the cost and all that. For the smaller lot, it makes more sense. This may happen like once every year or two, so should we require everyone building a house in order to do these surveys, in order to catch those one or two times? I mean, those are all questions you gotta think about.
The only reason I'm thinking that is, I used to be in the mortgage business forever, and whenever we had construction loans, we required the foundation survey before we would even start to disperse funds.
Right.
And that's just to make sure on our end, we were protected.
Yeah.
But, I know, it's a bad thing to be
Well,
this
it's a
far
shame,
along,
yeah.
I mean, and
Well, and at least these people were saying that they kept telling him there was a problem, and he just kept bulling forward.
Yeah, my big question is, anybody called the county?
Yeah, the answer is yes, but on the other hand, I don't want to get into talking about a case that's now closed.
Sure.
If that's okay, but the answer to your question is yes,
And
someone did.
don't we
and
have a
checked
bunch
it
of
out.
letters in here that were sent in? I saw something in my packet.
We had someone contact the county, and then we followed up on that. and
Okay.
that's- Yeah,
So you're not at fault.
no.
Yeah, it's just a shame that
Now
it all
do-
happened, and there's not a good way
Yep.
to remedy
Yeah.
the house, you know?
Now, do we need to adjourn this meeting?
Sure.
Just, okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
For you.
Brian,
so
thanks for
Since
being
we haven't
here.
had a meeting in a while, we always have to
I think
motion
it-
to
I think
approve
that's what you
something
get
so we
back,
can
Jerry.
deny it. Because we used to motion to say no, and then we didn't know which
Where
way,
the
to
little
vote
arrow
yes to
is
say
that
no, or
says
vote
sign.
no to say no.
I'm glad you were on that. I was ready to say
Yeah,
that because I was
because-
like, they're probably.